today's session is facilitated by Carl. And Carl is going to be talking to us about the power of small habits, energy management, mindset, as well as the neuroscience. So, Carl, the floor is to you, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. And I will be joining you again tomorrow at 5 for the expert panel. So there was a Greek wrestler, Milo of Croton, and I don't know how to pronounce Croton, Croton. And this was about 500 BC. So we're talking about the ancient Greek Olympics. And he actually won 5 gold medals. And if you can imagine, people didn't live that long before 500 BC, but 5 gold medals over 4 years a shot. I mean, you're looking at 24 years. So he won the first one as a boy and then 5 more as an adult. And the legend goes that the way he got his strength was in preparing for the Olympics, I guess about a year to go. He would find a calf and he'd pick up that calf, and then the next day he'd pick up the calf again. And as we know, as it got closer and closer to the Olympics, that calf became a cow, and he would still be picking it up. So that's the legend, and so that's apparently the key to his training. And this brings to 2 points about this exercise. The one is the power of daily habits. And the other is that as if we maintain daily habits, what happens is we get more and more powerful, we get stronger and stronger, and so we face bigger and bigger challenges, which is also known in training and in some environments as the 1% rule. In other words, if you increment what you're doing by 1% every day, much like Milo and his cow or his calf, it's sort of get this progressive overload training. And I'm only going to share one chart today or one graph. I don't know, am I able to share? I'll just send you a request, Safa.
Yeah.
Let me just see if I can find it. Share. I'd have opened it. Oh, there it goes. So you should see. There we go. And this is actually a graph from actually a very good book on goal setting called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And it is a particularly good book, promoted extensively by people who do things like multi-level marketing. And what's important about this thing is you'll see that when you start your daily habits, or like Milo and his calf, initially it doesn't seem to make much difference. And the gap between me, who's doing my daily routine, and those who are not, doesn't seem to make much difference. But then suddenly a moment arrives where exponentially we get stronger and stronger, and the people that aren't doing the daily habits don't seem so one of the things about doing daily habits is initially it doesn't seem to make much difference, and you sort of say, well, why am I doing it? And if I didn't do it today, would it make any difference? But the important thing is that over time, the effort compounds, much like Milo and his calf. And lastly, in this whole thing about small daily habits or is Carol Dweck's book, Mindset. And Carol pointed out that her whole book was really the difference between a fixed mindset which believes largely in that we have fixed qualities, there's not much we can do about it, the person born with the talent is going to win anyway type argument, versus her whole belief in promoting what's known as a growth mindset, where if we focus on the process and we keep doing those things every day, like Milo, the Greek wrestler, then what happens is we can develop skills, we can develop traits. And so Carol's whole book was around, enjoying the challenge, being intrigued by the errors we make along the way, take the effort, continue learning and growing. So that's really a high level introduction to the whole concept of the power of small habits. And today we have 3 topics. We'll see how we go. There's no real agenda. And the first one is, how do we take action on our priorities? And I'm going to give a few pointers, and then it's really up to you, everybody else, on what you guys think. The first thing is, in terms of priorities is in the evening, knowing what is the focus, reminding ourselves of our purpose. Um, what is my focus? What does it mean to me? What is my roadmap? And then going back to that book, The Slight Edge, very much a case of in The Slight Edge, Olson mentions micro corrections along the way. An analogy of that is a rocket trying to get to the moon. It doesn't go straight there. There are constant little micro corrections as it goes along its way. Um, and in this process, what is really key is what one or two key tasks, if I do them tomorrow, will make a difference. Um, and um, and then, of course, the next morning, important to realize that the first 2 hours of our day are probably when we are the most productive. And really, how can I use those 2 hours to get those tasks done? I know a lot of people start with exercise every morning, and I used to do it a lot. But really, is it a good use of our time when the most productive hours of our time are the first 2 hours of the day? Maybe it's better to use those to get the exercise done. Um, and also in terms of action on priorities, what I've found is linking is a very, very good way to do this. An example of linking tasks would be to say, I have a meeting from 9:30 to 10. As soon as that meeting's finished, I've got a gap of an hour and I'm going to tackle one of those tasks. So you sort of link when this happens or when this is done, then I'm going to do one of those tasks. And then lastly, showing up. And important tasks are not that easy to do. That is why it's probably a good idea to start them early in the morning. Um, but something that I use a lot as an athlete would be, it gets started and then decide. So if I had to, as an athlete, do an early morning run, the alarm goes off, I get dressed, I get onto the road, and once I've done a kilometer, then I can decide, do I really don't want to do this and go home, which did happen sometimes. Or once I'm going, I think, okay, well, I'm into it now, let's get it done. So a trick to getting those priorities done is to actually get started and then decide later. And I guess lastly, an important contributor is always an accountability partner. What's working, what's not working, keep something to keep me accountable. So there's some ideas on taking action on priorities, and we'll suffer over to you. Let's get some ideas.
Yeah, let's get into a breakout room so that everyone can share. What would be the question?
Well, the question is how or what do we do to take action on priorities? I can just put, some keywords into the chat, if that helps. But the real question is, what do we do or what could we do to make sure that we take action on key tasks every day and those are key tasks that are helping us create that thing that's important to us. Make sense?
Actually,
All right. Yeah, you have a
if
question?
I may answer to that question, I hope I got it clearly. I will say that generally, when you wake up in the morning and you have a task to fill in the
But
morning.
that's what you're gonna answer in breakout rooms. So hold that thought and share it with your group.
Okay. It
That's
will be
okay.
for sharing in the group.
Yeah, please. All
Sorry.
right, let's do that. Let's do 10 minutes. Please share as much as you can. Michael, welcome to the expertise session. So you'll be in a group and then you can share a little bit about who you are and feel free to share your contact details in the chat as well. Let's go for 10 minutes. All right, welcome back. Please,
Well,
I'd like to share.
one of the things that came up in our group is you have to learn not just to assume, that, yeah, you can't assume that everyone's on the same schedule and that it can't assume that your own body and your own mind is going to fit the uh, schedules of other people. That you have to ask yourself, what is best for you? Because some people are night owls, some people are morning people, some people are afternoon. So you have to ask yourself, why am I doing this at this particular time in this particular task? Because a lot of people do things and they don't question themselves. They don't try to really evaluate what's going on with themselves.
We talked about each people's rhythm and the mindfulness of being aware of our own rhythm to achieve those priorities. So it's not about taking a list that we found in a book and creating habits based on that person's habits. It's really being in our own. And Sam used the word mindfulness, and I thought that was very appropriate to it to really understand where we're at.
And I don't think there's like everyone doesn't have to jump out of bed and do something really productive. Sometimes pondering a problem, you're most creative probably in the morning. So that's a great time to solve a problem. You don't necessarily have to jump up bed. I know 5 chapters of my book came from the fact that I laid in bed thinking about this idea and it became a full chapter in my book. So sometimes that creativity alone time is good.
It's a lot about knowing your biorhythm, whether if you're highly productive in the morning, mid-afternoon, or at night, and you adapt to it. But before that, you need to prioritize. So you need to sit down. I use a lot the Eisenhower Matrix of urgent and important that Stephen Covey described in his book. That helps a lot. And if I am productive early in the morning, I'm not gonna wake up and start reviewing emails, for example. No, I will do the thing that it adds most value to that day, whether I like it or not doing it. But I identify that as being the most valuable task for the day. We also talk about leaving gaps in our schedules because Murphy never rests. There always can be urgencies and emergencies. So you cannot fill all your hours. You leave certain spaces open in case something happens or something occurs in that sense. And I also work with the premise that what is not in the agenda does not exist, even for your personal life. So you have to plan your personal life. If you want to exercise, put it on schedules. If you want to go out with your spouse, put it on a schedule, because otherwise, if you're fully loaded with work, that will kidnap you and take away that time.
That's so interesting, Alfredo. You remember a few months back, we had as a guest speaker John Perkins, who is the author of The Power of Moving On. And I know John, I've known him for many, many years. And I think for at least the past 15 years, he has pretty much a clear calendar. He doesn't put stuff on it because for him, that's like clutter. So he keeps his calendar very clear, very open. And it's a lot to do with intuition and feeling it. And so I suppose it's different things for different people.
Yes, you have to find your own way. But the reality is that only 8% of the people who define next year goals accomplish them. Only 8%. And more around 80% just forget about them in the first quarter.
But I think it brings me to my first comment in the breakout room. I was saying I'm confused about how to answer this question because I'm confused about priorities. I think we all have different priorities. Some people is to be productive. Some people, as Mark said, it's maybe being creative. For some people, it could be taking care of themselves. So what are those priorities? And sometimes they conflict. There are priorities that are being asked from us versus the priorities that we have for ourselves.
Yes, that is true. In a sense, you can have cognitive dissonances where you boycott yourself because you might well have a priority for your professional life that is in conflict with a priority in your personal life, and you are not aware of it. So we need to sit down and put down on paper in reality for each realm of our life, our professional life, our individual life, our social life, and so on. and see what our priorities are, and then cross them and figure out what to do when there are conflicts, for example. And it's always an individual thing. You might well prioritize your personal life, while other might well prioritize, I'm going to work this year 12 hours on a daily basis on my professional life. As long as they are conscious decisions, you are on the right path.
And Alfredo, I think the conflict you're mentioning creates a lack of action when it's not aligned.
Yes, indeed.
I also think that we have a level of freedom most people don't have. Most people have to be at work at a certain time, and it's usually in the morning. So we get up when we want, maybe, but most people don't have that luxury. And I hope we appreciate that when we wake up in the morning, that we can do whatever we want to do most of the time.
Yeah, that's funny. It is true. For example, I've been studying French with Duolingo. I've been doing it for almost 900 days, and I do it before I got out of bed. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to do it. So I acquired that habit. For me, that was the perfect time.
What's your longest streak, Alfredo?
It's almost I am about to reach 900 days without interruption.
So I'm beating you for now. 1400. Okay.
Well, congratulations to both, because this shows very much small habits and how you're building on it.
But you know what? If Duolingo, this is what's crazy. 1400 days, that means I do it literally every day. But the thing I notice is that if Duolingo doesn't send me reminders, push notification, I forget about it. I totally forget about it. And I'm like astonished at myself, like, how could I forget this? Like, it's a daily habit, but if I don't see the notification, it just slips out of my mind.
Well, that's what one tool you could use. Put posters around your house of the things you want to acquire and do on a daily basis.
I think you said something very interesting that is really a tool that businesses use to keep us focused on what they want us focused on more so than what we're focused on. I turn my phone off because I don't want notifications. I don't want to know what's going on Facebook or other things. But I think what you just said is proof of why you get so many notifications and why Facebook specifically is so great at holding our attention. So just be aware of those. Are they helping you accomplish your goals? Or they help you accomplish their goals? That's something you always got to be aware of.
But I think he links back to what Alfredo said, where Safa is not putting it in her calendar, so it would not get achieved, even though it's her priority. The reason it's in her priority, it's not because she wrote it down, it's because there is a notification. Unless we put it in the calendar, maybe if Safa had it in the calendar for every morning, 8 to 8:30, she would do her Duolingo. So there is another question is, but I'm going to let Carl take over. But the other question is, for me, it's the first is alignment. The second is, how do we commit to ourselves?
Well, an important thing we've mentioned a lot today is when I get up, then I will do. So you link it to the getting up. So, yeah, or you link it to when I get the notification, then I do that. So linking helps a lot. And also I'm noticing the word priority versus what is valuable to me. So, priority is one thing, that it's valuable. Getting what is valuable to me is maybe, I don't know if it's a similar or, yeah, but one needs to.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you in that sense. I first do the Eisenhower Matrix, defining what is important to me, both professionally and personally, and then I prioritize.
Mm.
They are two different things, because otherwise I might well be doing things that do not add value to myself.
And that's where I was confused, because Carl used the word priority. And that's not always where I want to spend my time, or that's not always what I feel is valuable to myself, even it's a priority.
Mm-hmm. And that happens a lot at work, especially. It's like using the Pareto rule. What are those 20% actions that add 80% value to your professional personal life? Once you have that defined, then you can start prioritizing again in that sense. Because, I mean, to really be focused on our personal life, and as Mark was saying, we are kind of blessed here because we all manage our own schedules. You need to be extremely efficient at work to free time for your personal life. Otherwise, work will kidnap your time. Even, and you might well be enjoying a lot and be happy at your work, but if you're not well aware of your personal life, it will take over. Your work will take over.
So I have a question for the group. Who blocks time in their calendar for themselves every day?
Self-care?
Sorry, what's the question?
You mean self-care, like time for yourself?
An hour for lunch, or maybe, I mean, the French, that's probably a given, but in the US, taking an hour for lunch does not exist. It could be an hour during your work day where you're going to be doing your priorities while you're fresh. Like, so who blocks time?
Does exercise count in that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely do.
So some of us can work on that.
I block time for some of my activity, and some of them are not blocking time. So that's why I didn't show my hand, because there are some tests that I give priority and I block time for that, and some other that I neglect. I think they are in the second option of my life, and I don't need to block time for that.
Right.
And Paula blocks 2 hours a day. I'm intrigued, Paula. What do you do during these 2 hours?
Well, whatever. Well, exercise isn't included in that because I do that first thing in the morning. Whether I do my lunch or I take a break for 2 hours, I have my think time because once a week on Fridays are my think days. And throughout the week, there are certain things that I need to pay attention to or not, like just relieving and relaxing my mind, taking a walk, doing different things. So I do things that are totally separate from the business. And I do that 2 hours a day.
Wow, you're my inspiration, Paula.
It took years to get here. I didn't figure this out till, I'm saying this. It took years to get to the place, the discipline and putting myself first. So that's very important to me. The more time I have for myself, the better I am at what I do.
One thing that Paula and
So
I guess Mark also do is that when it becomes a habit, then you don't need to block it.
Exactly.
If you have the habit of exercising on a daily basis, you don't need to block it.
No.
So the real challenge is acquiring the habit. But the habit, you acquire it by repetition. So how do you become aware that you need to repeat yourself doing that? You need reminders.
I take a little different take on that. For the first time after a year being here, I want to add something to what you said. I think you have to have a real desire to do something. There's one thing to say, yes, I should do this. It's another thing to say, I want to do this because it for my own benefits. And I think that's where people need to get to when it comes to their health. I think that's why we can make a lot of money, but be broke because we don't create a budget. I think all those things fall into, do I see the value and do I want to do this? Not, I got to do that. That's the first shift I think people need to make.
But what if you don't have the desire, but you need to do that?
Well, that's the problem. That's why you will always be at war with that.
Yes.
Let's hear from Michael.
That's where discipline comes into play.
Yes, indeed.
If you are a business owner now and you happen to have worked in corporate, you should have learned some discipline. And at this age as an adult, yeah, we skate around things, but you should have discipline and yield to that discipline to do things you don't want to do and get things done. Now, it doesn't matter when you get it done during the week, as long as you get it done. so that you don't offend your own conscience and start lying to yourself. And then after a while, your belief dissipates, and then you don't do anything.
One of the thing I observed in Duolingo and other apps is that it's the rewards which make the people do the same thing. It's like the habit, creating the habit. So I think if you are linking to the rewards, I think the habit will be more forming in well mannered, I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Well,
why
you're
I asked about this streak. This streak is definitely something Duolingo nailed it because they knew people needed a reward. People needed something to motivate them to get the lesson done every single day. And it's also the power of like coming back and reusing the app on a regular because they're not interested in people using the app once a month. They want people to come back to it on a daily basis. And that's how they get most traction. So they were really smart about like human behavior. We need to reward them with like a streak. They can share it on social media. By doing the lessons every day, we can get gels. So if you like miss one day, it's fine because you accumulated gels that freezes your streak. So you don't lose like the 1400-day streak just because you missed one day. So these are all techniques to definitely, yeah, link to motivate people. Let's hear from Michael because everyone shared, but we haven't heard from Michael.
No, yeah, I agree with what everyone has been saying. I think the only thing I also had was uh, okay, so I work remotely, and I have a home office, right? But I rent a an office at a co-work space, right? And I think for me, right, being in that environment where it's sort of like when I'm there, I know like this is where work gets done, right? And I have that mindset, and I don't have those distractions that I would have at home. I would, three kids and a dog and everything going on at home. There's a lot of distractions and sort of separating myself from that. Even though I could work from home, but I'm more productive and right, I take action when I'm at my office.
Hey, Mike,
I,
some of us lonely hermits who live by ourselves would gladly trade places with you for a day or two if you want to, you integrate. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
but
Then we have
Safa, what you were mentioning, Safa, that's what Facebook has got the like button. It is approval, but it also generates dopamine. So
It's
you
the
can
reward part.
exactly, and so we can do it for ourselves. One way of acquiring a habit is giving yourself prizes when you achieve a target.
So you don't get your morning coffee until you get this thing done.
Yeah, for example. Yes.
Well, most people it's the opposite. Let me get my morning coffee for you to be able to do that thing that
Yes,
you're
or buy yourself a chocolate or whatever, and those are ways or self-motivation.
Anyone seen the documentary The Social Dilemma?
Yes.
Yeah, I think in that one it's correctly explained how the Instagram, Facebook, and all is using this technique.
Mm-hmm. And but those are very addictive, in fact, what they are using.
Yeah. Carl?
So yes, I think interesting. A lot of the topics that are coming up now are leading to our second topic. So should we get going on that?
Yes, we should, Carl.
Yeah.
Okay, so interesting, particularly what Paula was mentioning. So we're looking at energy management, and one of the things I noticed more recently is how our nervous system is constantly under attack. There's a sort of emotional war, demands, this almost threat that something's going to happen that's going to make us feel incompetent or worthless, demands to get things done, deadlines. There's almost a sort of a stress that something bad might happen if I'm not totally on top of my game. And going back to the whole concept of growth mindset, Carol Dweck mentioned, and she doesn't mention in this context, but it's very much the same thinking, that stress is actually normal and we can build skills to get comfortable. I know Paula mentioned that in a way. And so how do we manage our day in a way that we sort of build skills around getting comfortable around the stresses that face us? Neuroscience mentions the first 20 minutes of the day, and I know that Mark actually also aligned to this, sort of lying in bed and planning your book. The first thing that neuroscience mentions is that actually, as we're waking, our brains are still going through the sort of delta, theta, alpha, beta waves that were there during our sleep. And it's sort of, although we feel we're awake, these processes are still running. And so maybe it's not, and they would advise that it's actually not a good idea to pick up your phone in those first few minutes and look at social media. Neuroscience actually argues that if you do that, you get addiction to social media. It's going to make it very difficult in the rest of the day to stay away from social media. So just giving ourselves a couple of minutes to allow the waves to settle, to own our first thoughts. I think Mark was saying, own our thoughts, get our book planned. What do I do about it? Well, I actually do take
Are
a few
you
moments.
leading your day, or is your day leading you?
There's
Many executives.
that's
Sorry.
so that's the real thing is. So for me to lead my day, I actually, and that's a good point, Alfredo. I actually do meditate for a few moments. I get up, I have some hot water, which has got salt in it because it starts off my metabolism. It gets some hydration after my sleep. Just get out of bed, get some sort of exercise going, and then I take a short walk without my cell phone. So that's a sort of, so we're really looking at this: how does one get comfortable with stress? Well, neuroscience points out that how we start our day, those first few moments, is a good way to start dealing with it. Another interesting point is that during the day, and I know Paula mentioned it, the sort of benefits of stillness and genuine interaction. Just having moments during the day where we can, where there's not incoming information, just some stillness, some genuine interaction where we can do some emotional integration, start forgiving some of the emotions that might have come up during the day, self-reflection, clarity of thought. So how does one do that? Well, unstructured exercise is a great way. Just take a walk. Genuine human interaction is good. Moments to reflect. And then I think the last thing I want to mention in this whole idea of how do we manage this constant demands on our nervous system, is how do we end our day? How do we recharge after a tough day? A hot drink, maybe hot bath, a shower, maybe some light exercise, early bed. Another thing we can do in the evenings that is very good is to start journaling. What progress have we made during the day, and to see our lives as we've done progress today rather than comparing ourselves to some goal. And then one thing neuroscience mentions, and I find this very interesting, is that a very good tactic at the end of the day is to make notes on, just write down what decisions are pending, what worries are unresolved, what tasks are incomplete, what are key tasks for tomorrow, what are important things that I need to remember to do tomorrow. Just jot these down and then say to our minds, you know what? There's the list. We'll handle it tomorrow. I've got a list of what needs to be done. I know what my important tasks are. I know what decisions are pending that I need to reconsider tomorrow morning. I know tasks that need to be handled, and just to actually write them down and then let them go. I've written them down. I know what the list is. Just let it go. So going back to what the topic is at the moment is, in a world where there's this constant demand for time, constant demand for things to get done, this almost emotional war of trying to protect that we don't get seen as incompetent or not up to it, is really to take time out. Take it easy the first few moments of the morning, have a moment somewhere during the day. Paula mentioned it, where we have a bit of stillness, some genuine interaction. And then in the evenings, how do we recharge? Write down a few ideas, journal how well we're doing, measure our progress, and let it go and have a great night's sleep. So there's some ideas. And so the real question, and I can put them in the chat, the real question for the chat or the thing is, how do we manage our exercise? How do we manage our energy? And most importantly, how do we get in sort of, how do we sort of get ourselves comfortable with the stresses that are facing us? I'm just trying to copy this. Safa, over to you.
Yeah, let's do a breakout room, 10 minutes. And I would like to also hear from Paula when you get back, like on the days you don't allow yourself those 2 hours, what happens? Do you feel any difference? But we'll discuss this after the breakout room. So 10 minutes, let's go. Did you put the questions down? Yes. Okay, cool.
Well, yeah, so there's sort of ideas on what to do, but I'm sure everybody has great ideas on how do we do this.
All right, let's do that. All right, welcome back. How did it go?
I just learned something interesting from Jonna now about when she said when you are writing something in the morning, handwriting is relaxing. And actually, we didn't all agree with that, but most of us agree. And I agree also with it because really when you are explaining something from your hand, it's different like when you are writing from computer or from phone, because you really have time to think about what you're writing before putting on the paper. So it's some kind of therapy and it's working really for most of people. Of course, what is working for X is not working absolutely for Y, but I learned something and definitely I will experiment it again.
Like handwriting, it's also about leaving a trace, a mark. So I'm like, sometimes I write, but I know that, like if one day maybe someone else will read whatever I wrote down in that journal. So I'm not totally open with everything. Because I'm like, what if it's the last day of my life? And like my kids could one day go through my journals and be like, hey, my mom was so stressed out. And I don't want to like let them know that and know like the small details of my life, if you see what I mean. I don't know if anyone in the room have the same thoughts or feelings.
Well, I guess that's one thing. But we also discuss a lot that it's more about finding your own recipe, what works for you in that sense, and being self-conscious. Do not sabotage yourself. Mark was talking about that a lot, and it's true. And sometimes we sabotage ourselves without being conscious that we are doing that. And that's important. And because if you're well aware that you're sabotaging yourself, you need to take action. Otherwise, you are not being in charge of your life.
Maybe Joanna has something to say about that, because as we learned last week, constellations and family heritage stuff may well be the reason for your own self-sabotage.
Indeed. Yes, and those are tools that help you take action.
Yeah, That's a deep subject, Safa.
Yes, yeah, it is.
I want to blame my parents
But-
on my group.
But what I'd like to say, so what I was sharing in the group that Lynn mentioned is I was reading, and again, it's social media, so it wasn't that deep, but I was reading someone that was summarizing a study that was done that handwriting 20 minutes a day brings more cognitive advancement than any other practice, including meditation. I think it's the combination of the, writing, you need cognitive skills, but as well, whatever you're writing, either it's emotions, either if it's journal, it doesn't have to be a journal, by the way. And I'm like you, Safa. I had a journal when I was 13. I discovered my journal when I was 14. I reread it and I burnt it. I was like, nope. So, writing a journal isn't for everyone. But I guess from what Alfredo is saying is finding what works. What are those 20 minutes that can work for each of us? And to take what Mark was saying as well is like no excuses. That's what his book is about. So I would love to challenge the group, including myself, to find what could we do, each of us, in the morning for the first 20 minutes of our day. And maybe we give it a try for a week until the next session. But what can we do for ourselves that is not picking up a phone, but that's something really that, to go back to Carl's subject, that's a priority for ourselves, and see how it changes our day.
I like that. Because the thing is, I think this topic is a topic that a lot of people haven't really thought about. And I did say to Safa before we started that this topic goes a lot deeper than people might realize. And maybe it is good to go away for a week and come back. So I do like your suggestion.
Guys, if you'd like to share in the chat, so you guys keep accountable for whatever you...
Who is up for it?
Me already in the morning, when I wake up, sometimes I don't check my phone. I just start directly some personal activity, and maybe just 1 hour later, I can check my phone. If I check my phone mostly in the morning, is when I was expecting some important message. Otherwise, it's not what I'm doing every time.
But see, when I say who's up for it, I'm the only one who brought up my hand. So I guess the next subject is, why is it so hard to change habits?
Because it's summertime and vacation and traveling and this and that and the World Cup.
Well,
and poor sleep.
reality, but what Anthony Robbins says is about taking action the first time and keep doing it. But the hardest step is the first one. That's the hardest one.
And what if it was the first 20 minutes of the day?
Yes. Imagine. I mean, for me, one of the hardest things is to take out my phone at night. Not in the morning. In the morning, for me, that's easy, not to use the phone. But at night, and that affects the sleep in reality.
Right, but that's at the end of the day. So I guess my point was, what if our first action, changing how we start our day, how would that affect the rest of the day and the rest of how we're taking actions for ourselves?
So Joanna, I have a routine I do every day anyway. So I'm already doing it. And the reason I do it is because I totally agree with you. How we start our day is very important. It sets up my energy for the day to come. And the other thing is, to me, and that's for me, is by starting my day that way, I have an intention of how I'm going to treat others and how I'm going to treat myself and a whole lot of other things. So it sets up a very strong intention about who I'm going to be for the rest of the day.
Exactly. And it is all about intention.
Mm.
Yeah,
and I'm the biggest offender, by the way.
That's what Robin Sharma wrote about in his book, The 5 a.m. Club. of defining your day at that time, defining your level of energy, meditating and planning in the sense. I guess it doesn't have to be at 5 o'clock, but it's a good suggestion.
Yeah, but absolutely. The very title, 5 a.m. Club, is exactly what Johanna's saying. That's why it's called 5 a.m. Club, because if I start my day in this way, then that's what my day is going to be for the rest of the day.
Exactly.
A bit like a rocket taking off, if it takes off in that way. So, yep.
And by the way, Carl, you did mention that the first minutes after we wake up, we are in a different state, which, has been proven scientifically to be true. And that doesn't mean get up and start running, because we are in that state that's partly meditative. The first 20 minutes can be, and I'll make the first commitment. I will listen to meditative music the first 20 minutes of my day to see how it changes my day.
Yes, and some authors suggest doing positive reinforcements.
Yeah.
Thinking positively instead of falling into negative thoughts.
Question for you, Joanna. Listening to meditative music while scrolling on your phone?
No.
Okay.
No.
So doing what? Just listening to music, right?
Just putting the music on and wait for 20 minutes. And it's easy to make even a playlist of 20 minutes, something that works perfectly. So before I get up, I'll be in that state.
And Joanna has really good music to share. As a matter of fact, we've added into the Spotify playlist. I'll put it down here. She made me explore some new artists, and I thought it was really good music. So I'll share it now.
Just to support Joanna, there's a study that says if you don't look at social media in those first 20 minutes, your day will have materially less social media for the rest of the day. In other words, if you look at social media in the first 20 minutes, your day will have a lot more social. It somehow sets up, it opens the door for addiction. And if you don't do it, then the door for addiction keeps a bit more closed. So one way of telling whether this is working or not is to notice how much less social media is in your life for the rest of the day.
It's very interesting.
The documentary Linto mentioned, the directors of Instagram and Facebook don't let their kids use social media on weekends.
Yeah.
So it is highly addictive.
Yeah, so who else is going to share? We've got some.
Did we have a third one? Because it's 12:15.
Yeah, we have another 16 minutes. And Paula, I was asking you, what if you don't allow yourself those 2 hours a day? What happens? Like, do you feel like a different, state in your mind, your body, or it's business as usual?
Well, I very rarely don't allow that. There are times where I can't do it together, so I separate it. Like Monday, I had a very intense day. So I knew it was going to be long. So I did an hour before my second half, and then I did another hour after my second half, and then wrapped up. So I make sure I do it, because if I don't do it, it bothers me, because it's a personal thing. That's part of my self-love thing. And so this is what I need to refresh. And then everybody's happy. If I don't refresh, no one, it's a thing for me, and it's not good for others. So I make sure I do it. I just separate how I do it.
I agree. When Paula's angry, I feel it. 600 miles away, I still feel it.
My goodness.
So, by the way, it doesn't have to be a 2-hour slot, right? You can
Well,
split it.
yeah, you can split up. You can do any way you want. On my calendar, it's 2 hours at certain times of the day on different days. Like Friday afternoons, I don't work at all, you know, and so that's that. And so, but there are 2 hour blocks throughout my calendar throughout the week, and I only do my discovery calls twice a week. So the other 3 days are strictly focused. And so, with that being the case, the way I've learned to do my calendar over the years is very different than others. But everybody has their own rhythm. Some people may need to take a break every 30 minutes or every hour or every 2 hours, whatever it is, you know. And you don't have to feel guilty about it. Let's face it, you're not going to close $1 million deal if you walk away from your desk for an hour and come back, because that deal is still going to be there and it's going to take a whole day to get it done, right? So give yourself that time.
Great. Carl, I really want you to move to the next point because I think that's an important one about building a tribe.
So, do you want to quickly have a look at the last topic?
Yeah.
So in the daily habits, and this is a slightly obscure topic, but there are not a lot of things that almost all motivational psychologists agree on. But one that almost everybody agrees is that you are the average of the people that you spend the most time with. So, your tribe around you is very important. I might just add that I have recently moved from Johannesburg to where I live now. And that move alone, my life has improved. And I've only been here a month or two. So the question then becomes, what am I doing every day to attend to having a really good group of people around me? And I might just add that coming to Expert Ease once a week is, in fact, a similar exercise. It is a habit that builds good people around you. And there are a lot of things we can do to really support a good tribe around us. One is those who are big LinkedIn promoters would know. They go on and they like posts about people that are important, and that is indeed a good way. Another way is to express appreciation when somebody's around. Somebody does something for us, we express appreciation, we take a note, or a thank you note that we do. In other words, we take time out every day just to say, who should I be expressing appreciation? Who should I send a thank you note? Connecting with somebody who's struggling, somebody who's important, just connect with them. How are you doing? Supporting somebody who's got a really big challenge. I know they have a big challenge. I know it's tomorrow. I send them a note. Best of luck for you tomorrow. It's going to happen. So these are sort of small daily habits that really express appreciation. What got me thinking about this is actually a Facebook reel where a lady came on and she said, if you want to be successful, the best thing you can do is think that everybody has a sign on their forehead that says, tell me why I matter. In other words, always, when connecting with people, let them know why they matter. So really it's a topic, and why this is important is, as Jim Rohn said, you're as good as the 5 people around you. So there's a lot we can do to build a strong tribe around us. And that was the thinking, and Safa, over to you.
Sorry, I was looking for my mouse. I just want to say welcome, Matt, to the expertise session. So yeah, the question is going to be, how many of you actually allow time on a daily basis to interact with other people, whether on the business level, personal level, but just taking the time outside of your nuclear family? Yeah, Alfredo, please.
Yes, I do it on a weekly basis. I work with energy, so I do that on a weekly basis with a partner. I also schedule, my eldest son lives in Argentina. I schedule the calls for me not to forget to call him every Sunday, and to call my mom, who's 90 years old, twice a week. And I put that on my schedule for me not to forget. And I do that. I also do that currently. If I remember that I wish to call someone, I go and put it on my schedule. So I always try to have that in, not to forget that those small things.
I've seen also Sunny actually have his phone ring like a pop-up message saying call mom, and it's the same day at the same time. So I think that's super helpful, to have reminders. Anyone else?
Well, I'm gonna jump into the constellation stuff you were asking 5 minutes ago. On Carl's topic, we've all heard the people around you are making who you are. The truth is there is something called epigenetic, which we talk about a lot in constellation, which are tags that go onto your DNA based on your environment. So depending on what you receive in life and what environment you have tags that will activate your DNA in a different way. Therefore, your environment kind of determine a little bit who you become. So I guess that would be a statement that would be aligned with what Carl just shared.
And just to add to that, your parents have a tremendous impact because you naturally develop their beliefs. No matter what they say, you naturally will copy what they do, or you will be repulsed by what they do and do the opposite. But your parents definitely have an effect on you also.
But you can become aware of that. That's the beauty of it. If you don't become aware of that, you are in automatic pilot.
But awareness doesn't stop. People know smoking is going to kill them. They still smoke. People know that they shouldn't cheat on their spouse, but they still do it. So knowing is a part of it, but it doesn't necessarily.
It's not sufficient. If we did what we knew we had to do, the world would be perfect. In that sense. So indeed, you need to take action.
So who else outside of Alfredo and Carl would take the time to contact family members, reach out to old colleagues, just take the time to just say hello, no particular ask, just pure interaction. Yeah, Joanna?
So it's funny you say that. I've been saying I wanted to reach out to one person a day from my past just to see what they're doing. And so I'm going to take a challenge. I will contact at least 3 people between now and next week, and you can hold me accountable for it. I won't say every day, but 3 people I will reach out from my past to see how they're doing. I have a very small family. I just have a mother and a brother. That's all that's still around. So it'll be people from my past.
Wonderful.
And I know Safa will hold me accountable for doing it. I know that for a fact.
Yes. Now I have to Joanna as well, right? I'll be nudging.
I think I heard Joanna say she was going to contact 10 people. I'm just saying. That's what I thought I heard her say.
No, she said she was going to listen 20 minutes of music every day. So.
Correct. Honestly, I contact someone, a friend, family, ex-colleague, once or twice a week minimum.
Good.
Me, concerning out of my relative, I always contact my client, even if I have finished working with them. I often contact them after some few months to get their news, because I think that it's not because our relation is not only setting on financial or professional relation. People need consideration in their life every time. So I take news time to time just to say hi, just to know even their business or their training after some few time, how they are following up the training, and how is if sometime even I still assist, because me, I'm not too much focused only on financial setting. I'm always available for time, for all the time, for how long they will need my help. I'm always available to assist, even if the session is finished, even if it's out of the package that the person took. And concerning message or email, I always pay attention to reply as fast as possible to them because I don't like them waiting. They are also busy. Maybe some of them can be waiting my mail or my message or my call back. I always reply as soon as possible to them. So that is how I'm keeping good energy around me.
Yeah, I also do that. I kind of have a CRM, and that I always plan. I'm always contacting prospects, old clients, old friends, and I put that on a schedule.
Yeah.
I also put on my agenda birthdays,
Mm.
and I still send birthday greetings to people I've worked with 20 years ago. And they truly appreciate that. It takes me seconds to do that.
Yeah, and I haven't really tried to cultivate any of those back yet. But I think that that's kind of a good idea. But there's still a lot of I think there's a lot of people that are, you know, social media wise scared to click on my links. And I don't know if that's anything that you guys experience. But Carl, I know we've met before in a Zoom, and Paula, you look very familiar. Safa, thank you for all your invitations. I finally was able to figure it out and attend here at the last minute, but I'll try to be a regular. And what I'm trying to do from my business perspective is completely so outside of the box that, it's not about getting clients type of a deal. So, but it's so crazy. It just might work. So that's where I'm coming from.
Okay, great. Do you want to say a few words about what you do?
Well, I was a 35-year veteran of the advertising and marketing space, and like everything in AI, it's kind of things I used to charge people a lot of money for, they can just you know spit it out themselves through Canva or Fiverr or through AI or anything in an hour. So which is fine. AI is a double-edged sword. There's good points to it and bad points to it for sure. My work day is a lot quicker, because I get stuff done faster for paying clients, which is great. Uh, but as human beings, from my perspective, I've kind of evolved into being a philosopher. And, what do we do as human beings now to compensate ourselves? I think that's why all these Zoom networking meetings are so popular. How do we make money? How do we generate income? And that's the problem I'm working on. And all these really, really much smarter people behind me is where I get all my ideas from. And I've kind of concocted them into two things: a new business concept, which is built upon how consciousness operates, and then a philosophy behind that that's called it's the philosophy of reality dash redesign. It's simulation assumptionism. If we assume we live in a simulation, okay, so let's stop being such freaking jerks and assholes to each other,
All right.
especially where according to it's just business, you know.
Mm. All right, Matt and Michael, feel free to leave your contact details in the chat so you guys continue the conversation outside of this session, book one-on-one calls with one another, continue the conversation. And I also put down the feedback form if you'd like to share some feedback with us on today's session. Last word to you, Carl, before we wrap up.
Yes, I think what I've noticed today is um, being intentional around how we manage our energy, how we start our day is something that many of us haven't really thought through. And equally, to reach out to people is also something that we've sort of neglected. So I think both topics are interesting for all of us to work on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carl, for today's session. It sounded so like basic, the topic, like the power of small habits, but at the same time, it's so important and it determines our days, our successes, our, failures. I know a lot of you are not comfortable with this word, but I'll still use it. It's so important. These small habits make your days, make your life in general. All right. Thank you again, Carl. Thank you so much to all of you who stayed till the end. Make sure to come back next week. We do this every Wednesday, same time, up until the end of July. So we're taking the month of August off. And then see you, some of you, tomorrow for the breakthrough room. If you don't know what that is, just get in touch with me after this call and I'll let you know what it is. But it's a wonderful opportunity. You shouldn't miss with Alfredo, Paula, Sunny, and Hanan. All right. Thank you all. See you tomorrow and on Wednesday. Bye.